Brad, I was at my first game last night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it did not go the right way for the good guys,
Nope.
but it is
Did
always
not.
fun to check out the team live because you get a different aspect of live baseball. Like I was showing you, I sent you a photo of like where the shifts were, and it was ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
there's like no third baseman if a left-handed hitter is up with 2 strikes.
That's what we talk about too. You don't necessarily have to ban the shift. Just make it a little bit more like baseball. You don't have to overload the right side of the infield with, 4 position players that leave it wide open. And everybody says, "Well, why don't you just bunt?" Well, I mean, you're going to bunt and you're going to get a runner on, and then the next guy, when you got a guy up who could hit a home run,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to bunt every single time. Get a rally going, sure.
They did it a couple times last night.
Yeah, they've been doing it actually this season, and I like it. There's times for it. Make the other team pay for it and get it rally going. But Giants don't have rally bats right now.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna hit the intro. We're gonna bring on Brian, who was at the game with me. He may have some hot takes for us. Hopefully, we'll see. But we'll talk about yesterday's game. We will talk about the games over the weekend, and then we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule. We got Player of the Week as well. All right, we'll hit the intro here. Let's go.
Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
All right, Bri is here. He is hopefully ready for some hot takes. But so we went to the game yesterday, and we did not see a win. And we're going to go over the game, but I have a little bit of businessy stuff to talk about first. Some of it involves Brian as well. So for the folks listening on the podcast, I've been mentioning this new network, the BSPN, Bay Area Sports Podcasting Network. We are going to change that feed this week. So the feed has historically, since Brad and I started a couple years ago, been Thompson to Clark. The feed will now be BSPN. You can see the logo here for the folks watching on video. It's going to have this podcast. It is going to have, I mentioned, we showed the photo on the last show of Zach's and Matt's podcast, Red and Gold Standard. The 49ers podcast will be in this feed, and Brian and myself and a few other people are putting together a new Warriors podcast called The Death Lineup. I showed the logo, I think, last week as well. So all of those podcasts are going to be in this one feed, Bay Area Sports Podcasting Network. I'm in talks with somebody about an A's podcast. We'll see if that works. Eventually down the line, maybe get a Sharkies podcast going.
Yeah.
Earthquakes. I don't know. Bay Area college sports teams. We could really go deep diving on some of this stuff, but we wanted to start with the 3 mainstays. I'm not adding a Raiders podcast, by the way. They're in Las Vegas. They are no longer in the Bay Area. They're
in my
Brad.
state now. They're in my state.
They're closer to Brad than they are with us. All right. So all that stuff is happening. It is in flux. If you see the social pages, they're all changing. We have a new YouTube page, BSPN Shows. Subscribe to that. We're going to put all of our shows, except for Red and Gold Standard. Red and Gold Standard are audio only. They have their own YouTube stuff going. Facebook page, Instagram page, YouTube page, Twitter page, all that stuff is in flux. And I'll be tweeting out from everywhere possible to show folks where to find us. All right. So, Bri, we were at the game yesterday. None other than Lou Seal plopped his big behind right next to you for some reason. I don't even know why. He just came to hang out and was just in our section the whole time. You tweeted at him to tell him to come listen to our podcast. But okay, let's talk about yesterday's game. So Brian and I are there. One thing that Brian kept mentioning, and this is something that we've talked about, is how long the 9-inning game was because of I'm going to say it's mostly because of one thing, which is the Giants pitching. They did not attack the strike zone very well. Lots of walks, lots of 3-ball counts. You could say it's the umpire, but the Padres had the same umpire. I know there's some stuff with the pitch comm that they're trying to figure out still, where they're not on the same page. But overall, Bri, first time in the park in 2022. You were undefeated last year. First thoughts of the season on watching the team live.
First thoughts on the team. Well, so the last game I went to was last year, NLDS Game 1, electric, shoulder to shoulder in that whole park. We were in the left field bleachers, and Logan Webb was throwing a magnificent game. And we come back now, and it's not as packed because it's a regular season game against the Padres. But I don't know totally what to compare it to. If I'm comparing it to Game 1 at NLDS, the last game I went to, it looks like a chump compared to that. But
did it feel like a candlestick game? I mean, it looks like a candlestick game.
It kind of did. He's never been to Candlestick. The only time he was ever at Candlestick Niners preseason game in like 2005,
and that's like
or something.
That's August. So
what was that QB's name? Like Sean Hill?
Yeah, wait a minute, Sean
I think that was the QB.
Okay, so Brad, you mentioned Candlestick. It's kind of funny because they had 23,000 people in the park yesterday.
That's brutal.
So it's like 60% of what the max is, and I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what a Monday night or a Tuesday night in the park is these days without that star player, right? Because now Buster is gone. That this was a conversation that was going on behind us while we were watching the game. They were talking about, they started with Lincecum, but really it starts with Bonds. Bonds is the first in this park, in this current park. He's the first really the player that is driving people to come every game. They had this tremendous sellout thing, right? But it's Bonds. And if you want to go to extend to that team, it's Bonds and Kent, and then further down the line, maybe JT Snow. But once Bonds is gone, it's Lincecum, right? Lincecum is the guy. Every start, people are just wanting to go to those games. And then they win the championships. You still have a little bit of a link to those teams with Buster Posey. Buster Posey's no longer there. So now I don't even know who is the mainstream person. Like if you are a diehard Giants fan, you're going to find a way to go to the games like we did last night. It was a Monday night. It was cold. We were like, we still want to go. But if you're kind of on the fence Giants fan, who is the player that brings the people to the ballpark? I'm trying to figure out who that is. And I mean, we don't even have a Pablo Sandoval on this team, really, from the likability aspect.
And I think, unfortunately, right now, and not unfortunately because anything's wrong with him, but Logan Webb, unfortunately, because he's an every 6th day player, and but Lincecum, I don't know if I have this memory or not, because I was already living here in Reno when he came up. 2007, I think. 7, right?
Yeah.
So I was already here. I'd been here for 4 years. So I don't know the Bay Area buzz. For right off the bat, were people going to the stadium and saying, Lincecum is here, let's go watch him pitch?
Well, I mean, I think in the guy's debut, he hits like 98, 99 on the gun.
Yeah.
And he just his balls is going crazy. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure in 08, so his real first season, and he wins the Cy Young, right? And then in 09, his real second season, he wins the Cy Young again. Yeah. So at that point, it's big time Timmy Jim. It's Happy Lincecum Day and all that stuff. Brian, you know who the guy was last night who Brian really wanted to see play the most?
Oh, probably Ramos, right?
Well, Brian can answer.
Ramos and Bart.
It was Joey Bart.
I'm drawn to the rookies.
Yeah,
it was Joey Bart. Him and his brother are very similar in how hard they root for the younger players. Like Brad, you wouldn't know this because you're not following the Warriors, but they have a really electric young player. His name is Jonathan Kuminga. You will hear all about Jonathan Kuminga on the Death Lineup podcast coming this weekend, we're going to do our first episode
Nice.
after the playoff game
I'm
Saturday.
I'm not a basketball fan, but I'm going to listen. Not only because it's you guys, but I need to know more about the Warriors because they're heading to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Fair weather fan right here. I'll be watching the playoffs.
So Jonathan Kuminga is this guy, right? Jonathan Kuminga he's sort of like the Marco Luciano, but if Marco Luciano was playing in the majors right now, like that's who he is. And both of my kids, Brian and his brother Jay, that's their guy. Like it's about Kuminga. It's getting Kuminga more minutes. Brian is trying to convince me that Kuminga is going to be part of this playoff rotation earlier in the season, and I'm like, Steve plays vets, man. Kerr plays his vets. So, but that's kind of what it is, and I like that aspect of the team. You have Bart. Now Ramos is sticking around. The Giants. Tyler Rogers went on paternity leave. His wife's giving birth. They brought up. How do you pronounce his first name? It's Marte. We know Marte is the last name.
Is it Junior, like Junior, but Junior because it starts with a Y, right?
Yeah. So reliever who's been thrown very well in the minors. He comes up, and so there's this little intermingling of younger players on this team, and then on the other side, it's everybody who's like 33 and older. Now, from that. Is it Crawford? Is Crawford the guy who's maybe the one that brings a little bit of the on the fence Giants fans to the park? It could be Crawford. I know Belt has some part of that fan base who really loves him, but he also has the other part of the fan base who gets frustrated with him. But other than that, it's a Darren Ruff who's still acclimating to the fan base. It's a Steven Duggar who feels like he's been a Giant forever and has been more of a disappointment, I think, because of where he was as a prospect. Austin Slater, it's guys like that, and there's opportunity because you got a Thiago, you got Estrada, you have some of the guys that we mentioned like Ramos and Bart. So there is an opportunity for these guys to grow into that role. But right now, you're more or less rooting for the team as a unit than you are rooting for one particular player, I think.
Yeah. Twitter was angry last night that Ramos was not in the lineup.
So was Brian.
Ramos is not in the lineup again tonight, and I haven't looked yet. And
he'll be there tomorrow, though. I think he'll be there tomorrow because Manea is left-handed.
Yeah. So, and that was kind of the plan all along, but so you kind of gotta let the guy breathe. You got to let him grow. He's, he's going to face the left-handers. That's what he's going to do right now.
All right. So let's fast forward to a couple of things that happened during the game. I thought Alex Wood, his stuff was really good, but he just was not aggressive in the strike zone enough. Guys were laying off of stuff, lots of 3-ball counts. That led to a situation where ball was hit back to him and he could not throw the runner out at first. I want to say it was Profar. And so there's just constantly runners on base. And for the Padres, they got 4 of those guys home and the Giants only got two of those guys home. The Giants offensively, they did all the right things in putting runners on. They just couldn't hit them in. And a lot of it is because when you're turning that order over, Brandon Belt is getting on base. But when runners are on base, the guys who are up are Steven Duggar, Mauricio Dubon, who did get a sac fly, and he made some good contact, but he left. Was the bags loaded in one of those innings? It was like the 7th or 8th.
Yeah,
and so
7th, I think. It was the 8th. Yeah.
That was pretty much the ball game. The Padres were able to get a couple of guys in. Some of it's because of the Giants' errors. Tyler Rogers, he fielded a comebacker, and the runner at third broke to the plate. In the back of his mind, he was thinking double play, and he wasn't going to get the double play because it wasn't hit hard enough, and he fumbles the ball, and the guy scores. And so it's just like one of those things where, in those moments, they did not make the necessary plays. But Bri, so we're watching the game, we're seeing the same guys come up with runners on. And there was a discussion going on behind us about who was left on the bench to bat right-handed. Was it to bat right-handed or bat left-handed? No, it's bat left-handed because there was a right-hander on the mound. They were like, they can't pinch hit for Duggar, who couldn't even put the bat on the ball because they didn't have a left-hander on the bench. So it was almost like, they build these lineups. But do you have any thoughts on seeing Steven Duggar come up time and time again with runners on and clutch positions and not coming through?
Yeah, I had absolutely no faith in Duggar, and I feel like you're trying to protect one man's name right now, and you're not saying the name with a Y. But I didn't have any faith either when he came to the plate, when Yastrzemski came to the plate. So
it
was literally back to back Duggar
guy.
and Yastrzemski too. So it was just like and a lot of the like Longo's out, Lamont's out. So I mean there are some players to look forward to and pieces to move in that lineup. But I think there should be maybe some restructuring in that lineup, because if your guys that are getting on base is I every time Belt came to the plate, I was like, I thought he was going to get on base. And I think Dubon, he was making solid contact. We were saying that he drove in a run with the sac fly. But yeah, he struck out with the bases loaded. I was hoping for something there. And with Darren Ruff, we kept texting in the chat. He gets to the warning track almost every time. I don't know if he needs to do an extra rep in bench press or bicep curls, just one more rep, and it gets him over there.
He needs to play in Cincinnati, is what he
yeah. He's hitting it to areas of the park where the ball was just not carrying. Especially last night, it wasn't going to carry. The only person who was able to get it up into that stream to carry out was Austin Nola. Was he on our fantasy team last year, Brad? I feel like
no. We were going to draft him, and we never got a chance. God, I hate that league. Quit bringing up that National League only league. I'm so happy to be playing in just a normal league this year. My own, the league that I've run for years. I'm just so happy that that's the only one, because I'm looking at making moves and I'm studying it. And it's so nice and relaxing. So I'm scarred for life.
All right. So Bri mentioned the name. Baby Yaz, Mike Yastrzemski. He got a hit yesterday, his first hit of the season. So we got to see him get a hit. He made 2 terrific plays in right field.
And you could argue 3.
What was the other one?
I think he had to run down some kind of. It wasn't like a sac fly. He had to run down one.
Yeah,
it was still impressive.
The way that they were positioned, he was in right center and had to run all the way down.
But for sure, 2 crazy ones.
2 great plays. Brad and I talked about this when we went over the first game of the season. We gave our 1 like and our 1 dislike, and I said my 1 dislike is Yaz hitting leadoff, because he doesn't get on base enough, and there's a lot of pressure on him to get on base in that position. So I don't think he's long for that position, but we'll see who ends up there. Just ultimately up and down the lineup there. You were confident in Belt, you were confident in Ruff. Crawford was okay. And then it was kind of like, what else? Even Estrada, Estrada was okay, but you didn't feel like, this guy comes up and he's hitting something in the gap. There's not a lot of confidence in those guys yet. So the one thing that was pretty apparent to me is when they don't hit home runs, it is very hard for them to score. And they led the National League in home runs last year, so that makes a lot of sense. But doing the things to advance runners and to, hit the fly ball when you need the fly ball, or hit the ground ball when you need the ground ball, they don't do those things very well. So when they don't hit the home runs, it is really hard for them to score. Brad, from your view, watching on the television, was there anything that you saw that we may have missed? Just there were a lot of close plays where I was like, what's going on here? Like we don't see a replay. Is he safe or is he out at first? But anything from, maybe the pitching, because it did look like Wood was just not being aggressive in the strike zone.
Yeah, he wasn't being aggressive. He was trying to nibble a little bit. And I don't know if he was trying to nibble or just didn't have great control to start. Really, I mean, honestly, as I'm watching the game, I'm just sitting in my head thinking, we're just watching right now an extended spring training.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see pitchers go deep in the game. They're going to struggle early. They're still looking for their control. They're still looking to see what pitches are working. it was a very cold night too. I mean, you were out there. It
Yes.
looked like a cold night.
It was cold.
I went outside. I had to turn off the sprinkler system again here in Reno because overnight it was 25.
Oof.
So I thought, and I'm watching you guys out there. I'm like, it looks like it's 25. You guys are everybody's sitting out there with their parkas on and their jackets pulled over their heads. So it just looked like a really cold, awful, slow, dragging out type of game where you're waiting for things to start clicking, and then little things happen, like Tyler Rogers, kind of bobbled that ball, hit right back to him, and he was going to try to turn two from the second it hit his glove, when he could have just picked it up and fired home and gotten the out, and then continue on with it. I think at that point it was still 2-2, right? And
I think
so,
so.
that was the third run that came in. So right there, I mean, it's the little things, but again, I think the biggest thing I take away from right now, and especially watching last night, is we're in an extended spring training.
Yeah.
And then they go up against Darvish tonight, who's one of their nemesis in the National League West. I mean, he's owned them for the last couple of years. You're not going to see fireworks tonight from this offense. As I say that, they're probably going to score 8 runs.
Well, you're reverse jinxing. That's
what exactly. But I want to throw this out to you guys real quick without looking at the stats. Don't look at the stats. Who's leading the team in runs driven
in? Estrada.
Hot take. What do you got?
Oh goodness. Yeah, I'll go Estrada too.
Dubon. He's got
wow.
How many does he have?
2. He's hitting 125 and he's leading the team in runs driven in. Joey Bart with 4 walks. That is fantastic to see. This team is going to be much better offensively. Once they start getting on base like they did last year, things are going to turn around. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I know everybody wants Dubon's head right now because of that bases loaded whiff. I mean, everything was up in the zone.
Yeah.
Those were hanging sliders.
Oh, yeah.
Everything from Pierce, it was just hanging. And he couldn't put the bat on the ball. Again, I chalk it up to it being a cold night. Can't get the hands fast enough in a situation like that. But I don't know, man.
All right. So enough about last night's game. The Giants lose 4-2. Who do we got coming up here? I know we have the Padres tonight and Wednesday.
Yep.
Do
And
we have the Guardians?
Is it the Guardians?
Is it next? I know we have them soonish.
Well, tonight is listed as a sold out night.
Interesting.
So that's kind of nice. Yeah, I don't know why, but
yeah, Guardians. So Guardians is the next team. Series.
They go to Cleveland for 3, to the Mets for 4, to Washington for 3, and because of the lockout and trying to make up games,
there's a Milwaukee
before they
game
head
in
home. There? Yeah, before they head home, they go to Milwaukee for a 3:00 our time start, which is a 1:00 Milwaukee time start after playing at 10:30 in the morning our time game against Washington on Sunday. Then they hop out to Milwaukee for 1. Back home, this is kind of nice though, because they come home and they play the A's for 2, then have a home day off on Thursday the 28th. And then Washington for 3, another day off, and then they go to LA for 2 and come back home for 2 series against the Cardinals and the Rockies.
Got it.
So that's a nice big stretch right there. That will be very welcome after what's coming up.
Bri was making fun of me for mispronouncing Manfred's last name. So the Giants got. They got Manfreded with that Milwaukee game.
Or they got he kept saying on the podcast Manfred, and so I think that's
I said I wasn't going to correct him because I didn't know if it was right or wrong. I didn't know if I was saying it wrong. Yeah. Manfred. But I liked what Garrett said. What'd you say after that? Just think of all the things that I pronounced correctly.
Yeah, I probably have like a 98.5% correct rate. All right, so we're gonna let Bri go, but before we do, we told him he has to come up with some hot take predictions for 2022. So I don't know. I don't know if these are bubbling. I don't know if these are simmering. I don't know how long he's thought about these, but we need at least 2. So let's hear some hot takes.
So when I gave my last hot takes, I feel like I was a little negative Nancy, and I feel like it's a lot easier to be negative Nancy when the free agency, the offseason was looking the way it was going to look. But I'm gonna try to be a little more optimistic this time. And my first one, and I don't think it's that hot of a take, because if you look at Vegas, I think the odds are kind of rolling with this as well. But I want Bart NL Rookie of the Year, and I'm hearing Vegas has it either Seiya Suzuki or Joey Bart.
Wow.
As the 2 front runners in terms of like before the season betting. So I want to go Bart here. And that might be a little off of what I've seen from a couple games here. Because what was Bart? He was supposed to be like for a couple games in, this maybe not a complete fair projection of what it's going to totally look like throughout the season. But we knew him as like a lots of strikeouts, high power. Maybe the defense wasn't totally there. I mean, I have the stats right here, but small sample size. Oh, goodness. I did have them right here. 3 strikeouts, 4 walks. And we've seen the home run. I was kind of confident when he was going to the plate last night. I know you see that with Bell. I saw it with Bell. I felt it a little with Tyro, but I was kind of there with Bart. I thought he would find a way to get on the bag.
It's a good point. He doesn't look overmatched. And I think that's a big deal for him, right? It's because he's coming into the season. He's in a slightly, I'm sure to him, he probably felt like, if all things were equal and he didn't have a Hall of Fame catcher in front of him, like he probably feels he could have come up a little bit earlier. But I think, you look at him and in person, and we were kind of doing this thing last night, like who looks impressive in person. Like Will Myers, like I thought Will Myers was this like gigantic human, and he's like a little skinny dude. Like I was like, this is the guy that kills us every game, man. But Bart looks like just a big dude, and he's athletic. Darren Ruff, giant human being, looks athletic. Like these guys look like they live in the weight room. Belt just tall, Belt's tall. I don't know how much he lives in the weight room. But like those guys are very impressive looking. And so you would hope that translates to some power. I think Joey Bart lasered a ball. It was like 111 miles an hour off the bat yesterday that Kruk and Kuip were going gaga over. So it's great to see when he is able to do that. Now he's going to go through his situations where he's like, oh, we're going to do that thing. Where it's like, oh man, Joey Bart won for his last, 27, and he's struggling. It's going to happen because he's gonna have those moments. But so far so good on the Joey Bart return. I do like it. And the other thing is that it sounds like the pitchers really enjoy throwing to him, and he's also having to transition into this new system with this pitch comm. Though there were moments where they weren't using the pitch comm because I saw him putting fingers down and stuff. So there was some frustration, it seemed like, with that whole thing. But that's not a bad one. That's a good one. I would love to see him rank very highly in that race.
Yeah, and I feel like it doesn't look like the moment's too big for him. Just like reading body language and stuff like that. Like imagine the context. You're coming in, filling a spot for arguably one of the best catchers of all time, franchise hero. When you think of the Giants, you think of Buster Posey in this era. So, I think with all that context, I mean, I would be scared as hell going up against behind the mound or just to the plate. And to me, he seems like under control. And so I'm putting that money. I'm putting my money on Joey Bart.
All right. Do you have one more for us?
Well, before he gives us the other one, let me give you Suzuki's numbers so far.
I saw you hit a jack on Sunday.
This is gonna hurt because we were in the running for him. He hit 2 more today.
Oh my gosh.
So he's 375 with more than 375 now. The numbers aren't quite updated, but so I'd say he's probably like 410, 420 right now. And he's got 3 home runs and 8 RBI.
We need a media narrative going that 27-year-olds shouldn't win this award.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, Brian won't remember this, but when Brad and I were back in the day younger. Remember when Hideo Nomo won the Rookie of the Year, and it was like the same
Yeah.
thing because he
Did
was
Ichiro win it also? I think he might have also won the Rookie of the Year as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been a thing for sure.
Oh yeah.
Okay, for the next hot take, I feel like I didn't have much time to. I guess I did know I was gonna have these, but I didn't think there were that many like juicy storylines like there were last time. So I'm kind of coming up with these, not totally on the spot, maybe a little 5-minute rehearsal, but I'm gonna go a 1A 1B here because yeah, I just think I'm gonna go 1A 1B. 1A is, based on the off season, based on what they got in the offseason, it was looking like this team was going to have an excellent rotation, excellent bullpen, but it was going to be the offense that was a little down and out, and would suffer due to them maybe not signing more people and focusing more on the pitching rotation and the bullpen. But I think if this offense is like finding their groove, it's obviously going to be dependent on, Belt producing, Crawford starting to produce more. I think we can expect, I would project him to start producing more, but I want to see, and this might even be a carry on to point A, or the first take, but I'm hoping to see some more Elliot Ramos in these games. And maybe it's the rookies that are kind of the X factor in getting this offense moving. Is because the story's been the same since last year. It was a full showing of it last night, is that it's hard for this team to score runs if they're not hitting it out of the park. And I'm hoping that Ramos, his first 2 hits, they just grounders out to the outfield. And so I'm just hoping that maybe it's the rookies that will help the offense. And one last point is that I heard that Kapler confirmed that Ramos would be in the lineup tomorrow against Manea, and I heard that Brebbia would be returning from the bereavement list. Maybe he's already back by now, but that signals that it wasn't Ramos that's getting sent back down for that. I don't know who's gonna go, but it seems like Ramos is at least staying for that.
Yeah, that's interesting because unless Marte is just here literally for this one game tonight, to pitch in this one game, and then he goes back down to tomorrow. That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they do. If it's Bart and it's Ramos who are part of the reason why the Giants are good, like that would be fantastic, because it sets up, for the next couple years. I do wonder, you said this earlier, which is Longoria, late night, when those guys come back, we'll have a better vision of what this team can really be. And I'm not the biggest Evan Longoria fan, but do I have more confidence that he's going to get the bat on the ball more than Steven Duggar? Oh, yes. so much, yes. I wonder if Austin Slater is able to play himself into more games against right-handers, because he hit the ball really hard when he came in for Duggar, and that ball looked like it was going to possibly leave the park. He hits the ball a lot harder than you'd think for the size of him as a human. Like if you put him and Duggar next to each other, you're like, oh, they're kind of like the same size and the same guy. But one of them hits the ball, that ball goes, and the other one hits the ball and it doesn't go quite as much. I wonder if Austin Slater is somebody who can finagle his way in. Do you think, Brad, before we let Brian go, is Duggar possibly on the fringe to what are his options? Like if he's the odd man out, like what happens with him? He feels like he's been a Giant for a very long time.
He has. And don't quote me on this, but I believe he might be out of options. I'm not 100% sure. But I think when the outfield starts to kind of get plugged up, when Ramos is hitting, and I mean, he already is, but when he's hitting and in the lineup consistently, and then Lamont Wade Jr. comes back, I don't see any room for Duggar. I mean, Ruff is here to stay. Ruff could have 4 home runs now. Yeah, and he's got none, and he could have 4 home runs at this moment because of the way he's been hitting the ball. Any other ballpark, he'd have 4 home runs. So I think the end is near for Duggar. Slater is one of those guys. If Slater played every day, he could probably be a 15 home run guy in a different ballpark. So I think he sticks around. Again, his defense is great. Duggar's defense is great. That's the other problem too. But I think if you have to axe an outfielder, it's probably going to be Duggar first.
So the one good thing about Duggar is he still has 3 more RBers left.
Right.
So Duggar is 28. This is his 28-year season. And so he still has 3 RBers left. So maybe there's a possibility to trade him, maybe get something back. I can't find the options on him or not.
I always have a hard time doing that. You know that Yaz still has 3 arbitration years left, and what
crazy.
Is he, like 32 now?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, these late bloomers. Giants love the late bloomers, man.
Oh yeah, and that's the great thing about it. And the Giants have always done, or lately have done a fantastic job of doing it. Yeah. So Yaz is 31 this season, making 3.7 million. RBer next year, 2024, 2025. Free agent when he's 35 years old in 2026. So,
I should just be able to go into Google and type Steven Duggar options, and it should say no. That's all it should say.
Right.
Google should just say no. Okay, here. So this is from our good friend Jeff Young, who was on our show a few weeks ago. He wrote in December of 2021, so just 5 months ago. He said Giants players with no options remaining include Darren Ruff, Harleen Garcia, Lamont Wade Jr., Tyler Beatty, Tyro Estrada. Did I call him Tiago earlier? God, what the heck's going on?
No,
I think Brian's got me screwed up with Manfred and Manfred. Jeez.
That 98% is going down a little bit.
But think of all the other ones you got right. That's good.
Steven Duggar and Mauricio Dubon. So yes, he is out of options.
Yeah,
that's a tough one. That would be a tough one.
Dubon sticks because Dubon can play many positions. Not well, but he can play in many positions. So I think he's going to stick around. I know everybody wants him gone, but man, he is still an exciting player and he's still fairly young. And
yeah, I would lean over Dubon's youth over Duggar for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously Ruff is a mainstay. And Estrada, he's a better player than Steven Duggar right now. So yeah, interesting. Not that I want to see Duggar go or anything, I don't have anything against him, but he did hit last night like there was a giant hole in the middle of his bat. That's for sure. All right, Bri, thanks for doing this. Thanks for coming on, and we have the BAM Pods is the Twitter account for your podcasting network. Like we have BSPN, and Bri's going to help me with a show, the Warrior Show. He's got his own podcast network. The BAM Pods. You have baseball, basketball, and now football, and you're hosting all of these shows. What the heck is going on?
That is, it's a big commitment, but I'm just hoping that it works out. We've got the social media. At least Instagram is absolutely rolling. Like we're just posting out these Instagram reels, and they're just getting a ton of views. So we're just gonna keep doing that, and hopefully it leads people to click on our page more.
All right, I know the BAM Pod at the BAM Pods on Twitter. Is it also, what is it on Instagram?
On Instagram, it's at the BAM Pod. We had to do at the BAM Pods on Twitter because these guys who made food in like 2015 were at the BAM Pod, and I've like DM'd them trying to get the handle, but they're playing hardball.
All right, so we'll bring Brian back at some point during the season, but he's going to be with me on the very first Death Lineup podcast after the first postseason game for the Warriors. Is our new person joining us on that? Have you?
He's ready.
He's ready. You want to give his name?
His name is Eric Carrillo, and he's an A's, Raiders, Warriors fan. But I think his Warriors knowledge is really good, and I trust him on all sports. He's on the football podcast too, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So the Death Lineup will be me, the old dog. We're gonna bring the youngins who don't know what it's like to watch the Warriors and not win championships.
They don't know Run TMC, man.
They don't. And then we're gonna have a couple other guys. I'm hoping my buddy Ben Cruz will find some time, but he's got a new baby and a new job, so we'll bring Ben in sort of more as a guest right now because he's a very busy man. But we're gonna have a bunch of people on the death lineup. So, Bri, thanks for coming on. We will catch you and go check out at the BAM Pods on Twitter, at the BAM Pod on Instagram. All right, Brad, let's finish this up here. Let's get to the end of this. We talked about where the Giants are going after this week. Anything you want to talk about on the 2 games we didn't talk about? Last podcast, we went into heavy detail on opening night where they get out to a lead, then they lose the lead, and then they come back and they win the game in extras. Game 2, we got to see, and I'll just give it away right here, our player of the week.
That's too many buttons. That's buttoned up too high. It's usually open, like wide open.
Player of the week, Carlos Rodon. Rodon. I've heard it like so both ways on broadcast.
On opening day, Renell Brooks Moon said in Spanish, Carlos Rodon, and in English, Carlos Rodon. So I maybe it's like pronounced both ways. I'm not sure.
So he had a tremendous start on game 2. This dude was rolling. He's just throwing high fastballs. Like they couldn't touch him. It's like, oh wow, that's what 97 looks like. I almost forgot what 97 looked like from a starter.
That first inning was absolutely outrageous, man. Yeah. I was just standing there. I was doing dishes, and I got the game. And so I do dishes in the middle of the day on Saturday. I don't.
Hey, we were both doing dishes. Stuff, man. I was watching it on the iPad as well, doing other stuff.
Well, we had just finished doing the podcast, and I went in there, and I was like, "Well, I got Friday night dishes to do, and it's Saturday afternoon, so I'm doing them." And I'm watching him just gas 98, 99 up in the zone, and I'm like, "This is like going back to Jason Schmidt days." I mean, this was so fun to watch. 24 swing and misses on the day, and I think his career high is 27, so he is flirting with that. If they had a full spring training, maybe he busts his own record on Saturday. But man, it's so electric.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. You knew, because like you said, it's still early in the season, he wasn't going to go very long at all. He only went to 5. The team. So the Giants, they gave up they gave up 1 in the 3rd, and then they got 1 in the 5th, and then they gave up 1 in the 7th, and then that was it for them. They didn't score any more runs. Both teams only had 5 hits. We're giving Duggar crap. He did get the run in on the second game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these games you would think, it's the Marlins. The Marlins are semi-competitive, but it's not like they're breaking down any doors as a top team in Major League Baseball. But I kind of liked what I saw from them. They have some good hitters. They have someone who we all really like. Maybe we like him better than the Marlins like him, Jazz Chisholm.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even play in game 2. I heard that he was pretty frustrated with that.
Yeah, I think didn't he tweet out Saturday morning? Let me see if I can find his tweet because it was colorful and fun.
Yeah,
and I like when when guys take to
express
Twitter,
themselves.
He might have deleted it.
If I was him, I probably would have deleted it.
Yeah, I would imagine he deleted it. It said something along the lines of, "You got to be effing kidding me." So, or no, it was like, well, what the F? I mean, it was, he was not happy about seeing the lineup that morning and not being in it the day after hitting a bomb.
Yes. I would take him. I like him.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah, I would take him.
All right. So the Giants, Mac Cheese, he pitched so well on opening day, and then he ran into a little bit of a rough spot there. It just shows, though, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like Gabe and the way he uses his bullpen, it doesn't seem like there's like a set, like, oh, here's the 8th and here's the 9th, and here are the pitchers that are gonna, battle in those innings. It's very much like, oh, this is high leverage, and we need our best guy. And so, Mac Cheese comes in the 7th. He gives it up. Giants lose 2-1. Though they brought in Duvall in the 8th as well, so he wouldn't even have been available if they came back to pitch the 9th inning because they were attacking the bullpen in that way. It would have probably been Rogers, who we said would probably get a couple saves this year. So they lose 2-1, but then they come back on Sunday. They win 3-2. Dominic Leone gets the save. The guy who gave up the lead in opening day, he comes back in and gets a save because they didn't want Duvall and McGee pitching 3 days in a row. They'd pitched the 2 days in a row. The one thing about that game I will say that I was a little worried about is DeSclafani looked like second half 2021 DeSclafani and not first half 2021 DeSclafani.
Yeah, he was hanging a lot of stuff. He was just eating up the heart of the plate, and that's I think I tweeted out at one point after they had runners at first and third and nobody out in the second. I said, if he gets out of this only giving up 1 run, he's got some luck on his side and some magic. And that's what happened. He pitched 2 innings, gave up the 1 run, ended up pitching, I think, a third and a fourth. But at that point, it was just he was hanging everything over the plate. He kind of tightened it up a little bit, was starting to pitch a little bit better later on in the game. But that, I mean, I know AT&T, Oracle, whatever you want to call it, I know it's way more exciting and electric on Saturdays and Sundays when the weather is nice, the sun is out, than it is like on a Monday night, like when you were at last night.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, the feel on Sunday was Ramos is here.
Yes,
one of our top prospects is here. The whole broadcast, you could feel it through the TV. Everything was it was like an injection of life. And I think that's what Twitter is talking about yesterday and today. They want to see Ramos in the lineup, but that's not what this team is. If you didn't learn that last year and 2020, that this is not what Kapler does. Kapler doesn't just run a guy out to face lefties and righties. No, we didn't see Ramos come in last night because you didn't see any lefties come in. So you didn't see Ramos come in, and that's just
no. He made the last out in the game.
Oh, that's right. That's my bad. Yeah. So he but didn't come in a line shift like in the 6th inning and stay in for 2 at bats. Maybe get a third in extra innings or anything like that. But you may see that tonight, depending on which way the Padres go. But Darvish is on the mound. And he's just nasty, and he could probably go 6 innings tonight, 7 innings maybe. But yeah, just that electricity, and you're going to see that throughout the season. I mean, you're going to see a couple other guys, especially Bart, the electricity, whenever he comes up, it dials up a notch. I have to tell you, though, we talked about Road to the Show last week quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Get that Luis Matos card because he is fun to play with in the game. He's got massive power, massive speed, massive contact. And they those guys do a good job of trying to imitate who that player is in real life. And that's all we've heard about Matos. I don't think he's going to be up this year, probably be next year. But these guys are coming. Kyle Harrison, Lucky Luciano, Marco Luciano. I mean, when he comes up, all these guys that are just kind of waiting in the wings. The Giants are going to be injecting life throughout the entire season and next season. So, it's a weird start to the season. They're 2-2 after 4 games last year. They were 2-2. They're just not hitting right now. I was looking at the pitching as we're talking here. Jose Alvarez, Camilo Doval, Dominic Leone, and Tyler Rogers have all pitched in 3 games so far, 3 of the 4 games. So this is what I'm talking about. At extended spring training, you're seeing a lot of bullpen action, and MLB knew that, and that's why they extended the rosters to 28 for this first month.
Yeah. So just to put a cap on Sunday's game, I thought it was a pretty clean game. The defense was there. You mentioned Ramos. He gets 2 hits. He's the fan favorite of the night of the day. Luke Williams, aka Sunshine,
Yeah.
got
I
to
always
play.
forget about him. I
got
like
the
that dude.
got the first. He hit the first run in, or maybe the second run in. But he got an RBI. And the bullpen went like this. DeSclafani only throws 3 2/3, gives up 8 hits, 5 strikeouts, and then we go Harleen Garcia for 2, Zach Littell for 1 1/3, Rogers throws the 8th, Leone throws a 9th, game over. So the last what is it? The last 5 in the third innings. The Marlins get 3 hits, no runs, 4 strikeouts. So the Giants bullpen cleans that game up. And now we are 2-2. Giants are 2-2. You mentioned the Yu Darvish game here that's coming up. We'll get this podcast up probably during the game. Unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about the game, but it should be this is the beginning of the season. Everybody's excited. We all are making critical statements off of 4 games, but that's what we got to do, man. We got to do it. We're too, we talk about the history piece of this podcast. You and I go back to the early to mid 80s. Like that's how many years we've been watching this team. So
Yeah.
It's a long time.
And your starts on the season kind of dictate where you need to be in a month. If you start out, 1-8 in your first 9 games and you're expected to compete, you got a long ways to go to get back to 500. So the Giants right now, and they're not in that shape in any way, because again, last season they started out 2-2. You're seeing life, you're seeing things, you're seeing little things, and if you can look at a team like this and say, if they could have just gotten 1 big hit last night, they probably win. I'll take that. I mean, over some, like you said, over some of the teams we saw in the 80s, some of the teams we saw in the 90s, later 2000s, and if you can look and say, oh, we could have just gotten 1 base hit last night, that could have been a W. We could be sitting at 3-1 going against Darvish tonight, but the team's right there. They're right there. They're just coming out of spring training, still kind of getting heated up and figuring things out.
All right, we didn't really talk about the drink because I know you're taking the week off.
Yeah, I got some back issues, so I'm all hopped up on Motrin. So I got some Zevia creamy root beer, which is actually fantastic. I love this stuff.
I bought some Japanese whiskey, so I bought some Suntory Toki because I'm just on that highball kick, man. We've been talking about it. I bought it specifically for the highballs. So yeah. All right, we're going to end this a little bit early. We did a show on over the weekend, so we were able to talk about some stuff. I think we're going to come back. At least we're going to attempt to come back this weekend because I'm out of town all next week. Now, I will still bring my microphone just in case. Yeah. Like, just in case something happens.
Hey, yeah.
I'll bring it. But if it's just a normal week and things go okay, we'll record this weekend, take the week off, come back the next Monday like our normal schedule. But by then, we'll have more shows in this feed. Death Lineup, the Warriors show, Red and Gold Standard, Zach and Matt. We're going to get their show up very quickly. They talked a lot about Deebo Samuel and threatening. I know that puts a smile on Brad's face for Deebo Samuel to threaten to not sign his deal here, not be a part of the Niners. Unfollowed him on social media and all that.
I like when he's on the team, and I like beating him and the Niners in the NFC Championship game because you got to beat the best to be the best. So I mean, that guy had a monster season, so you had to beat him. You want to get to the Super Bowl, you want to make it worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So we're done here. For Brad, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.